I recently had the opportunity to be interviewed by my friend Doug O'Brien on his podcast, the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast, along with longtime friend and coworker Halimah Holliday. We talked about a man we all had in common, one of our mentors from way back in the day, Dr. Dave Dobson. He was, as we affectionately referred to him, the curmudgeon of Friday Harbor, or the wizard of Friday Harbor, either way. He was one heck of a guy, and we're going to find out a lot more about him and our interactions with him, and one of the great wizards of our time. So settle back in and watch and listen to Doug O'Brien interview Halimah Holliday and me, John Morgan.
On today's episode of the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast, we're returning once again to the subject of what I learned from Dave. In this case, it's Dave Dobson, the for some of us famous, some of us infamous Ericksonian style hypnotherapist that we learned from. We have a couple of repeat offenders here tonight. John Morgan will be joining me, John Morgan of John Morgan Seminars. And I met actually at a Dave Dobson fun shop back in the 80s. I think it was the 80s. And then Halimah Holliday, who will also be here, also from the 80s, if I recall, maybe early 90s, but certainly repeat offenders both. And we look forward to hearing what they learned from Dave. You are listening to the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast, a show devoted to uncovering the systems and the secrets that set the best apart, where you learn how to take your coaching clients to the next level, while you grow the coaching practice of your dreams. So sit back and relax, or sit up and get excited. Either way, you might want to pay attention. This could be important. Hey, you guys, welcome to the show.
Well, hi, Doug.
So, because I know you both very, very well indeed, but it's possible that viewers of this show don't. Let me just ask you to introduce yourselves. Halimah, why don't you start? Halimah, okay. Ladies first. Beauty before age.
I'm the former sales coordinator for John Morgan Seminars, and Dave Dobson is what the three of us have in common, because I met John through you, and you and John met through Dave, and here we are.
And how many fun shops did you take, Halimah?
I'm sorry, did you say me or John?
Yeah, you. How many fun shops did you do?
Okay, yeah. So I took one of his last ones in 2006, and then I went and studied with him like a month after that, just for a few days. So
just private lessons?
Well, actually, it was for some marital counseling, or as I like to call it, pre-divorce counseling. So yeah, I went out there with my ex-husband, and after that, after the fun,
After the fun shop, it was the not so fun shop.
After the fun shop, we had not fun, but it was fun for me. But
one of those fun in retrospect things.
Yeah, it was. So,
but you knew Dave well before 2006, though.
We met him at Tony Robbins in 1988, because he did the beach walk, and so I'd had his beach walk tape since then, and fell asleep to Dave's voice pretty much every day since that time, because that's just such a great recording, to fall asleep to.
Since that time still? Are you still listening to it?
Yeah, actually, John, well, I rotate, because you have yours, and then John has his, and then Dave had the beach walk, but John cleaned up the beach tape for me, so it doesn't have some of the background noises, because there's like a squeaky door in the background. And what there was like a brake sound, like a screeching brake at one point in the recording. So, I mean, if you're sleeping, you don't remember it, but
yeah, I think you had the version that
yeah,
he recorded on the Highway 201, wasn't it? When he was stationed somewhere. I don't know. I don't remember the squeegee door sounds, but maybe I had a different version. John, tell me
It's
about it.
in there.
John Morgan, tell us your background and then lead up to this squeaky door sound situation. I don't remember.
My background is I was in radio broadcasting for 30 some odd years. And somewhere along the way, I got involved with doing hypnosis. I won't go into the long story,
Okay.
but
Thank you.
then I interviewed Tony Robbins back in the 80s, like I don't know, 87-ish, whenever that book of his came out.
Okay.
He was an basic unknown nationwide.
You interviewed him like for the radio?
Yeah, I have the interview. I'll send it to you if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I interviewed Tony, and at the end of the interview, I had asked him. I was about to do a swim. I was going to swim across the bay in Rhode Island. It raised money for bay awareness and clean ocean and all that stuff.
Cool.
And I said, I haven't trained for this. I said, but I know I can do it. And I said, give me some tips. And Tony gave me some tips. And he said, by the way, he said, I'm having a firewalk experience in New York City. Why don't you come down and be my guest? So I went down. I was his guest. You were probably there. I didn't know you then.
Yeah.
And I know Olatunji was playing the drums.
Oh, that was the best. Olatunji playing the drums was amazing.
Right. And, we did the firewalk for the weekend, and I got to talk to Tony, since I had interviewed him. And he mentioned this guy named Dave Dobson. And he said, like, this guy's the best hypnotist in the world. And I said, well, if I do that, I ought to meet this guy. And that's basically when I met you. That was 35 years ago this May. Happy anniversary.
Wow. You keep track. Wow.
Yeah, it was 1988 in May.
Huh.
That's when I met Doug. My man.
In the shoot pants.
That was actually my second fun shop, because my first one was in October of the year before, 87. And I remember my first fun shop, I was pretty much entranced the entire 2 weeks, I think, and then came back to find out what I'd learned, which was
But it's funny, the one that I went to, he wasn't there for the entire week, but you all know Jerry Stocking.
Yeah.
And Jerry came in for the weekend. He had been to a previous one with Dave, or a couple of them.
He was at the one in October.
Right, of 88. And I remember we were on what Dave called a T and P break, 7-minute T and P break. And I'm out on the railing of the hotel that Dave was conducting the workshop at, or fun shop. And I remember saying to Jerry, boy, I like this stuff, but I wish he would make it a little more conscious, sort of like Harlan and your other guest, PhD, was it?
Yeah, Cliff Saunders.
Cliffs, yeah. As they were talking about, like, how about, a little of the nuts and bolts here, and we were complaining that, or commiserating that we'd like him to tell us how to do it instead of just doing it. But that, I remember that well.
Cool. So tell me about this tape that Halimah said that you cleaned up. I don't remember door squeaks.
All right. So as I said, my background is in radio. So I'm kind of like an audiophile with my ears. I mean, I'm not a musician like you, but I can hear tsetse flies doing whatever they do at 1,000 paces. And in this recording, Dave's fun shop, or the beach tape, there was a screech in the background, and then there was a screen door that was like, right?
Really?
So I just went in with like Adobe Audition and did some spectral analysis and whatever, and got rid of it. And it's pretty clean. It's pretty cool. I'll send you a copy.
All right, because the copy I have, I think he used a noise gate on it. He did it several times. So it would maybe somebody cleaned it up, because it was his voice, and then there'd be silence, and then his voice, and then there'd be silence.
Yeah, well, this this one is a little better than that. It doesn't have dropouts like that.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. So if I could ask a question of the two of you, I
Yeah,
know.
but before we do, let me. Can I ask you if, when this is done, can I send the recording to you and have you clean up this recording? Because I'm hearing some weird noises here.
Oh, absolutely. The little phone things, I hear them in the background, right?
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's a deal.
So I have a question for the two of you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Since we've all been to Dave, and you know, again, many of your viewers may not never have experienced Dave other than through your guests. I'm just wondering, what is the one takeaway that you use to this day or impacts your life to this day that you learned from Dave?
Wow. One.
Just
one.
one.
Well, pick a couple. I don't care.
Well, Halimah, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Well, I just did a mind map of like just impressions and sort of memories of I think his concept, and I didn't get it really during the fun shop, but his concept of systems out of awareness, and then the purpose of English camp, which to me was one of the highlights and really impactful, because getting sent to English camp really got you back in touch with all your systems, you know, that, and you guys can explain English camp and, you know, the regression and all of that. But I think English camp was just really remarkable, being there. So that would be one. And the whole systems out of awareness.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting you should say mind maps, because I have just happened to have my notebook from back in the 80s. When I first took the seminar from Dave, I did notes kind of in a normal note-taking fashion. And then the second time I did it, broke my notebook. It just fell apart. Second time I did have to find some crazy glue or something. Second time I did it, I mind mapped the whole thing. So instead of that's the normal way, I did mind maps of the whole seminar, which was kind of fun. But in answer to your question, John, gosh, one thing is just impossible to answer, because there's things that I took away for me just as my own way of functioning. And then there's things that I use with clients like all the time, including, of course, the beach trip. You know, Halimah said that I have a version of the beach trip. You have a version of the beach trip. When I went to work for you, John Morgan, for John Morgan seminars, doing hypnosis around the country for smoking cessation and weight loss seminars, I basically followed your lead. I wanted to be like a brand that people could expect when they went to see a John Morgan. It would be the John Morgan seminars. So I did what you did, and you did, as the heart of the thing, a beach trip experience for everybody in the seminar. So you and I probably have done more beach trips than Dave ever did. You know, I did, you know, 2 a night for how many seminars over those years. So that is seared into my mind, and that the concepts of that idea that you give a direction to your unconscious mind, but keep your conscious mind out of the way so it doesn't screw it up. Sort of say go that way and let your purposeful other than conscious mind go towards it. So I use that all the time. So I would have to say, interestingly, I call myself sometimes an Ericksonian, because I've been so influenced by Erickson as well. But so much of what I do really is coming from Dobson, which is partly why, I don't know if you read my newsletter recently, I wrote a whole article about how it's kind of a neo-Ericksonian approach, because it combines not just those two, but everything else I've learned from other people as well, including, of course, NLP. So I don't know if that answers your question, but what about you, John Morgan? What's your one takeaway from the Dave Dobson?
Well, actually, I think I have two that are fighting for space, so I'll give them both to you. One of them is calibrating people for like yes and no.
Okay, great.
And I had a question for you about that. that would be one of them. Like when somebody says yes, you're normally the the way Dave explained it was that you never saw anybody say yes like this. Yes. Or you never saw anybody say no like this. No. It was always the other way around. The other than conscious
Came
response
first.
came first. So
Yeah.
you had to pay attention to that. And I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've used that, whether in seminars or personal interactions, especially now back to the stop smoking seminars. So I would, you remember, I would walk around, say hello to 100 people, and I would get their yeses and nos
Yeah.
as I was talking to them. I would ask them bizarre yes and no questions. And then I would ask them the ultimate question in the case of stop smoking is, are you ready to stop smoking? Absolutely. Tonight's the night. Like I know I got to go to work here. So that was one of the things. The other thing was oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it. It's where somebody tells you their sad story
Mm-hmm.
and you interrupt them and you use the patterns that they use to tell the sad story, whether they're analog, their eye patterns, their vocal tone, their body, whatever.
Yeah.
You would use that. And while you were doing that, after you interrupted them, you would tell them a joke or
Right.
a funny story or a story that had nothing to do with what they were talking about. And you were putting into their system another reference for when they went back to access that lousy memory. They now had this other one in there.
Right.
And I thought that was just wonderful.
No, I concur. And that is something that I've taught many times in my neo-Ericksonian classes. And I don't know what it's called either. So I just call it the across the room pattern interrupts, because what I do with people is I have them tell their yucky stories from across the room from each other. So they can't actually hear the content, but they can see what they're doing other than consciously. They can see their head nods and their movement of their body and how they're reacting and responding to the story that they're telling. And then I get them together and they tell the story, tell the joke, mirroring back exactly all the other than conscious communication that was happening, but telling the joke in that system. And it's really weird for people. It's weird for the person listening to see their stuff coming at them with a funny content, and it's weird for the person who is telling the joke to be funny while they're doing these things that are kind of universally yucky patterns. To be telling a joke this way is kind of hard for some people.
Well, the best part of that for me, and I'm sure, Hallie can relate as well, Halimah, is that when you ask them after you do this, all right, well, now go tell me that shitty, sad story again. And they start to tell you and they can't get into it,
Yeah.
or as deep into it as they were the first time. There's another reference in there. And I mean, that was, I thought that was genius.
No, I concur. I concur. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Doug, since you talked about the yes and no's.
All right.
I often wondered, so I'm doing yes and no's with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then Dave would say, okay, once you got their yes back or their no back, you would look off to their ear.
Uh-huh.
And so you're anchoring.
Yeah.
If anybody knows what anchoring is,
People.
you're anchoring both the yes and the no to the ear.
No.
No,
just the
that's
yes.
what I wanted to clarify with you.
Yeah, you just anchor the yes to the ear.
Yes to the ear. Okay.
Yeah.
So then when you ask the question that you don't know the answer to with them, like, so are you thinking about buying a car in the next 6 months?
Yeah, you don't look at their ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you want to lead them to it. If you're trying to
Right.
sell them a car, then you might say, so you're really thinking about that car now, aren't you? And you look over.
Yeah, right.
That's
the clarification I wanted to get.
Yeah.
Because basically I didn't do the ear anchoring. I did the yeses and nos. I would mirror them back and I would know how the person said yes or no.
Yeah.
And then somewhere during the course of the evening, or many times during the course of the evening, I would just say, I would spit out a concept and I'd say, I'm just wondering, is, everybody with me? Or are you with me? And I would look around the room and I would watch. And sometimes I would have to go tailor something to that particular person.
Cool. So I don't know what it is about you, John Morgan, but you do have extraordinarily acute sensory acuity about that, picking up patterns for people. I've noticed that about you over the years. You're really, really good at that.
It's by accident.
Is it? But
It
did you
is.
have something in your childhood that made you cautious about people or wary?
No, I mean, my mother was a waitress since the time she was 14.
Yeah.
And she had this ungodly gift of knowing stuff about people. Like, I remember visiting her when she worked at this one bar around the corner from a place I worked, and she was the manager at lunchtime. And I walked up to the bar and I got a Coke or something. I wasn't old enough to drink or anything. And she looks over and 3 guys walk in and she says, "You see that guy over there?" I said, "Which one?" She goes, "The guy in the middle." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "He's bad news, Johnny." And I said, "Do you know him?" She goes, "I never saw him before in my life." A week later, he was arrested for arson. So, I mean, I don't know what that is. It's just, I get something. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you.
But that's pretty cool because I mean, the thing that about that and about Dave's ability to do this is he always seemed to be able to remember people's other than conscious communication. I did the same thing that you did. I figured I'd take this opportunity to practice with people. So before I'd get to the smoking cessation, it started at 6. I'd get there at 5:30 at the latest when people started arriving, and I'd just chat with people and say, "So my name's Doug. What's yours?" Give them the flat affect so I didn't contaminate the communication. And they'd say, "Oh, my name's George." I said, "Oh, George," and I said, "Yeah." And I say, "Oh, nice to meet you, George." And I'd mirror back to them their yes, and then I'd say, "So it's not Bob?" So no, it's not Bob. So I'd get their get their nose. But to remember that after, I'd met 25, 35, 45 other people, 100 other people, not easy to ask. So, but you seem to be telling me that you could remember.
Well, no, I'm not telling you that I should know. Believe me, I wasn't on Dave's level. I mean, he was like in the major leagues and I was like playing T-ball. But what I'm saying is I got the global yeses and nos from people in the room.
Yeah.
But every now and then I would get, some kind of a like indicator in my body that something was going on. And sometimes it was visual, sometimes it just was kinesthetic. I mean, a great Dave story. And I told this to Dave, and I'll tell you what his comment was. It was 2002. We went out to do these seminars in Seattle and Spokane and all through Washington. And I took my business partner, whom you know, John Leslie, with me. And we went out to see Dave, and he had never met him. And so I had just done this thing a night before in Yakima, Washington. I've got 120 people in a room for a stop smoking seminar. And in the front row over to my right was this young lady, 27, if I had to guess. And I'm watching this movement, right? It's not rhythmic or anything, but it's, she's got this thing going on. And it didn't seem like a tick to me, kind of, there was some kind of movement. And I'm in the middle of the seminar. And, when sometimes you put your hand up and you're talking straight ahead, the hand is really sending the message to the person you're communicating with. You understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I go into this story in the middle of the stop smoking seminar, which has nothing to do with it. I said, today, I was having breakfast. I said, downstairs in the lunchroom or the restaurant. And I said, they have those little bar stools that you sit on at the counter. And I'm sitting at the counter. And I said, it's about 7:30 in the morning. And I said, every seat is taken. But all of a sudden, this person pushes between me and the person next to us and says, waitress, I'd like to have a milkshake, please. She goes, okay. All right. So she puts the milk in, puts the ice cream in, puts the thing into the milkshake blender, and it starts to whir. But all of a sudden, I said, it's shaking out of control. And I said, all over the place. But I said, the guy who was doing the milkshake looked right at the machine and said, and I have my hand up, stop shaking now. This woman came up to me after the seminar and said, I haven't had that go away in 15 years.
Wow.
So I told the story to Dave because it had just happened 2 nights before or whatever. And he said, so you think you have some power, huh? But I would like to hear a little more of Hallie's input here.
So would I, but I just, before we do, because I absolutely do want to do that, but was that where that picture is from, with that trip with
I'm sorry?
That picture that we have in the wings?
Yes, it's from 2002.
That trip.
That trip.
Should we come back to it or do it right now?
No, bring it up.
Okay, because this photograph, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, contains a digital signal that Dave was, I don't want to say famous for, in some communities, some societies, it's considered slightly offensive. But it's basically the way Dave counted. He was saying we're number one, I think, is what he's trying to signal here. And so we're going to just take a look at Dave and John here from 2000. 2002. Yeah,
so there is a story behind that.
Yeah. Why don't you tell it real quick? Yeah.
So the story behind it is I asked Dave to take a picture, and John Leslie is the one that took the picture with my camera. And basically what Dave was doing was not so much to the camera. That was for me.
I feel the same way, personally, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. I never knew that finger was up until I saw the picture.
So you think you've got some power?
Yeah. So you think you got some power? He's such an idiot, Halimah.
So Halimah, this is a much nicer picture. So Halimah, this is you with Dave circa, it's around the same time, 2002.
2006.
Yeah, so this is one of Dave's absolutely last fun shop. I believe he's
because you sent an email. You sent an email out. Saying if you've ever wanted to study with Dave Dobson, this is your chance, because he actually is retiring. And that's what made me go. Because I had just finished up massage school, and that opportunity came up, and I took it.
Cool.
And he helped me with my massage therapy national exam as well.
How did he do that?
But I don't remember quite what he said. With a lot of Dave, but that was just a split second with that picture. So
how did he help?
But I was going to ask you about the yes or no's. Did he? I don't remember if this was in the fun shop or in our little sessions together, because he very quickly sort of separated and did separate sessions with me by myself from my ex-husband. But one of the things I remember him saying was that he anchored yes to the thumb and no to the little pinky. And he would have conversations with people just with his hands. Do you remember that?
Yeah, except my memory is that it was the index finger for yes and the pinky for no.
I don't know. Maybe he was anchoring me for yes with the thumb then.
Maybe he was switching it up.
Maybe he was switching it up. He also was lisping when he was talking to me, which was back to the systems out of awareness of because I had VK. Oh, that's the other thing. He said to me in the fun shop, he goes, Hallie, are you familiar with the concept of synesthesia? And I said, ah. And, because he was very intimidating. And
good answer.
I was in my Dave trance. And he said, I bet you just can't wait to send money to those poor orphans that you see on the TV screen. Because of the VK connection. Like I didn't have a wedge between visual and kinesthetic, and I still don't. I see things and then I'm like, boom, feel them right away. But I did not realize how much I had just switched off auditory. And that was part of what was going on with English camp was I became aware of just all the sounds. Wow. And I saw an eagle, but I heard it first flying overhead at English camp, which was really cool. But there was, so when I was talking to him, he was lisping. And now I understand it was to bring my auditory awareness even more into awareness. But yeah, and he said, he was quoting Rita Redner. He said, have you ever seen the comedian Rita Redner? So when I got back, I had some Christmas cards that had a Christmas story on with licking the frozen flagpole. The story, right? And he gets his tongue stuck and it said Merry Christmas. So I sent him that card. Because he would do that too. He would say Merry Christmas out of Christmas. Just
it's like the same thing in that visit with Dave in 2002. The exact same thing. He was lisping, right? And he was also had his air hose because he was taking oxygen because he smoked his lungs out. But he's playing with his air hose when he's talking to me. And I said, Dave, is there a reason that you're lisping and like playing with the air hose? Certainly got your attention, didn't I?
Yeah.
Dear. So, getting back to the finger signals, Halimah, I remember Dave telling a story about how when he would, and this is actually something, John, he actually taught overtly. This is something he taught as a thing in class. He taught us to be getting the yeses and anchor it to the finger, and the nose and anchoring it to the little finger. And he said that he did this for his children early on.
Yes.
So you just remember, and so he says, and you never tell him that you're doing it. You just sort of do it yourself. So, that's true, isn't it? Oh, good. So you're not really having a good time, are you? And so, you just be getting these on your own hand, and then pretty soon they'd other than consciously pick up on it and start doing it with their own hand. So he said he got this with his kids early on, and then around about the time that they're starting to learn to drive, they'd say something like, "Hey, Dad, can I borrow the car?" And he'd say, "Well, did you do your homework?" He said, "Oh, yeah." And he said, "Well, tell you what, as soon as you finish your homework, you can borrow the car."
Right.
And they go, "How does he do that? How does he know?" Yeah. So, why do you think it is, speaking of his kids, that Dave had placed such an emphasis on being courteous to the other than conscious mind? I mean, that was one of his ongoing statements and ongoing things, to be courteous to the other than conscious. And yet sometimes he was, kind of like not so courteous to the conscious part.
I know why.
Okay. Oh, good. I've been wondering that. Go ahead, Halimah.
He did it to me. He did it to me. And it's to shock you out. When you create a highly emotional state, negative or positively, you are suggestible. And he said to me, as I was, sitting in a puddle of tears, he said, "I don't often do this, but sometimes it's necessary to shock someone to get their attention." And and to break them out of their patterns, or at least that's how he explained it to me. Yeah. So yeah, that was the explanation he gave me for
That's
that.
a good one. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, with the F-bomb. Sorry, is that going to demonetize you or anything on the podcast?
I make no money.
You can bleep me out. John, you can bleep me out, right? With the sound. You can
we could take you out of this entirely, Halimah.
Yeah. Oh.
You take three. Take three.
The other thing I want to say, because you guys know this too, and I'm sorry, I was ignoring what you said. I'm going to just pretend like it's my turn to talk.
It is your turn.
Before I forget, besides systems out of awareness, that thing he did with distinguishing bad hypnosis, because we are so inundated with it in our culture of parents saying, be careful, don't slip, or a doctor saying, no, this is going to really hurt. Those cases of like just instantly recognizing bad hypnosis and not letting it in, that I think was really, to use a Dave word, beneficial and valuable to me. Yeah.
Well, at the one I was at with Doug, and that 35 years ago, Dave did a 30-second, absolute 30 seconds if it was 30 seconds. All right, everybody, just close your eyes. And I want you to ask the part of you that notices that you're getting some bad information to have a response to that. Laugh about it, or something like that. He anchored a laugh. In other words, and then they said, just open your eyes. And it was all about bad hypnosis. When you get bad hypnosis, after he explained what it was, instead of saying, don't spill the ice cream, walk carefully with the ice cream was he says, once you hear that, he said, it will trigger within you the ability to laugh and notice it so that you can address it. To this day, unbelievable. As often as I hear that.
Cool.
And right in line with that is a couple other Dave things. The two magic words, wonder and curious, as softeners to ask a question. In other words, instead of coming at somebody with a barb, so did you do that? I'm kind of curious, or I'm wondering, you wonder, people wonder along with you. I mean, that was genius as far as I'm concerned.
Nice. And I say I haven't dropped ice cream in years, so it's working.
Non-dairy.
I haven't dropped many years, and I owe it all to Dave. So I don't know how much money I've saved thanks to him over the years. But seriously, the idea of bad hypnosis is good, and I think also in the beach trip, he gives us an anchor of where you close your eyes. With your eyes closed, you roll your eyes up towards the top of your head till you feel that eye strain, and that's an anchor that says, okay, now I'm going to go into trance, and now I'm open to positive suggestion. Whereas before I do that, I can filter out those bad hypnosis things that I don't want to be taking on. So that was that part of it as well, is how to filter out the bad hypnosis stuff.
Well, yeah, and that is a great sleep thing to do.
Sure, absolutely.
In other words, he explained that, before you go to sleep, bring to mind what it is, your word or your phrase, that he had you parsed down to what it is you wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
You got it in bite-sized form. You bring that to mind, whether you picture it or say it to yourself or get a feeling about it when you go to sleep.
Sure.
And then he said your eyes will roll up 2 or 3 times a night, 3 or 4 times when you dream. He said, and the eye roll, he said, while you're sleeping, will say, hey, there's the eye roll. You know what that means? Yeah, the thing that I want to accomplish. He says, so you get to work on what you want to work on 3 to 4 times a night versus taking crap to bed with you. Like, this was an awful day and that kind of stuff. That guy was a genius. I mean, he was a curmudgeon. There's no doubt about that. He was a pain in the ass, but lovable.
Well, I think towards the end of his life too, he was in a tremendous amount of physical pain. So I think that was part of his curmudgeon-y impatience, was he was in a lot of pain that he didn't let on. Yeah. So when my friend Robbie, who was like 75 at the time, she saw the picture of me and Dave and she says, "Oh, he looks just like a teddy bear." And I said, "Oh, he's a bear, all right." And I said that to Dave and he said, "I don't know how to take that." and I said, "Well," I said, "you look all soft and cuddly on the outside, Dave." And then you're not, but then I rather suspect that there's a soft spot somewhere in there. And he says, "Oh, okay." So,
well, you know, Doug, earlier you used the word courteous, courteous to the other than conscious. I think that was a reframe. I think he was just, he would let you know that you probably don't want to proceed in that direction if you're getting the wrong signals from the person. I don't think it was courteous at all, because I don't think Dave was courteous. I mean, that might have been his cover word, courteous to the other than conscious, but that was a teaching thing and good thing to teach, but I don't think that he actually was courteous.
I think he was courteous to the other.
Oh,
yeah, but not to the conscious.
Not to the person.
Yeah. So he had his priorities. The other than conscious, oh yes, I will be courteous to your other than conscious. Your conscious mind, yeah. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Dave, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I remember Harlan saying, I think it was Harlan who said that he didn't explain his process. And so I'm wondering if he said this to either one of you, because I do remember him telling me that he set things up like dominoes. And so it didn't matter how long something took. As soon as that thing happened, then it would trigger the next domino. And so it could go across, far into the future, however long it took. When the other than conscious mind was ready for whatever that prompt was, that domino would fall, and then it would trigger the next response and the next response and the next response. So however long it would take is the explanation he gave me. I don't know if he said that to anyone else.
I don't recall that at all.
I mean, it sounds as though it's an extended version of his subjective reversal, which I would have Doug explain, because I'm sure.
Thanks so much. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah,
I have my notes right here. Let me see if I can take them off. Here. I just happened to have noticed that in my notes. Dave made fun of people who took notes because he said we were very auditory.
Right.
Taking so many notes all the time. But I'm glad I did.
That's that's a visual thing to me. If I write it and see it, then I remember it.
Well, in the case of the one that we went to in '88, it was all videotaped and audio taped.
Yeah, where are those videos? Where are those videos?
I think the only person that has those videos is Eric Oliver.
Oh, you think Eric has one?
I think so. I mean, I haven't talked to Eric in 30 some years, so I don't know.
I was betting on it
being Barb.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Perhaps.
Anyway, the subjective reversal is a term that Dave gave to a process. Here it is.
Very nice. So can you give us your Reader's Digest? Give us your Reader's Digest version of that.
So you basically, it's basically re-anchoring something. So basically the anchor, the stimulus that created a bad response becomes the stimulus that creates a good response. So for instance, if you have so it's subjective, right? So you're reversing the subjective experience of this thing. So if I took this thing and you went, oh my God, that's horrible. And but we made it so that every time you saw this, you went, ah, that's so nice to see. So that basically the thing that was a bad anchor becomes a good anchor, which is what I took from that as the definition of subjective reversal.
And I would use it in the seminars all the time. In other words, after you do a stop smoking seminar for 2 hours with people, I would say, anytime you see cigarettes, whether it's on a billboard or a convenience store, it'll trigger in your mind how dedicated you are to being a non-smoker. Yeah. So in other words, the subject would trigger the new response that I was offering them.
Exactly.
And again, another Dave magic piece of business there.
No, that is great. And what did you do for the weight loss folks?
Some of the same things, when you would see something that, was hard for me. I haven't done it in a long time, but
ice cream.
Well, no, I wouldn't tell them what they had to give up. I would leave that up to them. But when you saw something that was inappropriate, I would use a Dave word, like a high school word. When you see something that's not advantageous to you, it will trigger within you your desire to continue to lose weight and eat healthfully or something like that, on the order of that. I'm sure I was much more eloquent in the seminar.
You were eloquent. Yeah.
I was eloquent.
You were eloquent. You were
eloquent.
But yeah, and of course, again, me modeling you that we both did it both in the induction part and then also throughout the seminar as well, particularly towards the end, giving it as conscious suggestions that they would take in. And
it's amazing to me the amount of stuff that was done outside of formal trance.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, if you will, let me just butt in here. Since it's my seminar.
Sure, it's your show. Go ahead.
I'm gonna highlight myself. Heck with this. Yeah, there we go.
Isn't he great, Hallie? That's why everybody loves Doug.
Yes, everyone.
They do. Yeah. Everyone loves Doug.
Yeah, it is true. It is true.
So what I was going to say before you got me so embarrassed and flustered is something I was going to say.
Yeah, you were saying in the seminars, the outside, the stuff that you were doing that was outside of trance.
Yeah. I years ago when I first met Dave at Tony Robbins and brought him to New York to do a 3-day intro. John, you came down to that. You were there for that.
Yes, I was.
You took Dave out to lunch. It pissed me off because
we went to dinner.
Okay, dinner. Fine. I wasn't invited. That's the point.
Yeah, well, it was an impromptu thing. It had nothing to do with you. I would have taken you in a minute.
So,
I mean, you were the cutest one.
Oh, it's too late, buddy. Way too late. Way too late. Anyway, I basically hired him to do a session. I wanted to do a session. I was working on a particular issue in my life. And so I expected, because he was such a great hypnotist, I expected hypnosis in this session we did. He didn't do a lick of hypnosis in this thing. He told a lot of very funny stories. He did a lot of those pattern interrupt things that we're talking about. He didn't do a lick of hypnosis, I'll tell you, which was fascinating to me. I mean, it was really instructive. I'm really glad I did it just for the instruction of that, because it informed my therapy from that point forward. I don't necessarily do hypnosis. Sometimes people go like, I thought this was hypnosis. It's like, yes, well, we will get to that. And right now you're just listening to my voice, aren't you?
Yes, aren't you?
So we'll just work on some new strategies, and then you can figure out how you will outgrow the old way and grow into the new way.
Right.
Look at their ear, kind of thing.
I don't suppose you'll take this away,
Yeah.
No,
So, Halimah, how do you use this in your massage work?
Do
you ever do hypnosis?
Well,
do anything like?
Oh, let me interject.
Oh, okay.
Hallie has this incredible recording called Virtual Massage.
Oh, that's true.
You want to talk about something that is just incredible with hypnosis and marrying that with her skills as a massage therapist. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to mention that.
I think I recall that may have been one of the only CDs sold by John Morgan Industries, not recorded by John Morgan himself.
That's correct.
It's a bestseller.
It was amazing, but I interrupted. I apologize.
So yes, I think it's a natural marriage because massage is all about relaxation. And so I think it's good to be conscious of what you're saying to facilitate a deep sense of relaxation. So, again, back to the bad hypnosis, if a massage therapist says, I don't want you to be tense, you don't have to be stressed out, or whatever they're saying, it's just good to slow down the speech and encourage relaxation. To as you're lying here and you can feel the surface of the table beneath you, you can begin to be aware of your breath and just tune in for a moment. And then just, but on the virtual massage, how that came about was that I had just done a massage and I was on the phone with John Morgan afterwards, and I was sort of like, I wish I had another body to work on because, I just did this one person, and he said, well, my shoulder's bothering me. What would you do? And I said, well, I would work on your traps and I'd start, and he goes, no, talk me through it as if you're actually doing the massage. And that's how that virtual massage came about, because I talked him through for about 10 minutes. And then he said, I think you have something here. Write a script. And so I did. I wrote a script and then I sent it to him, and he sort of, and we were sort of back and forth with it. And we practiced over the phone. And my last practice session with him, he fell asleep. And I hung up after the session. And then he called me back like half an hour later and he goes, I think you're ready to go into the studio. And so that's how that came about. And nice. And then I used the music. My friend Mike Zampi, who had a CD, that was one of the CDs I used when I did massage. And so I got his permission to use his music as the background music for virtual massage. So it's that lovely guitar music in the background. Yeah. So, and we both have a recording of virtual massage on our YouTube channel. So I can give you a link. Okay. We can both do that. He did a great intro for me with it. So
I have a recording of my beach trip version on YouTube as well, complete with pictures of beaches.
And as do I. I have everything that we ever offered at a seminar is on my YouTube channel, and it's all free.
Oh my gracious heavens! Everything,
everything.
All the John Morgan CDs.
Every one of them.
Oh my God, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Stop Smoking seminar on video, the weight loss seminar on video, and then all the different CDs that we did, and then additional things like we talked earlier about, bad hypnosis, and Holly was saying, if you're going to get this is going to hurt a bit if you're going to get an injection. I have a whole little video I did on YouTube about, are you afraid of needles? It's gone just by doing basically a Tony Robbins thing, is taking your eyes and putting them up when you're getting injected. It's that simple. So yeah, all that stuff is there. And Hallie's virtual massage on my site is probably the 5th most requested download. And again, it's all free.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, if anybody wants virtual massage, believe me, it's like getting a massage. I mean, I'm not a real kinesthetic person, but I could feel the warm towels on my body.
Yeah, we're in a spa when we do this. And I did do I practiced with a massage therapist friend who I went to school with. So we worked on each other through school. And I did it with her over the phone. And she said I feel like I've just had a real massage.
That's awesome.
So that was really cool.
One of the things I learned from Dave is that in the NLP world, he described how people often refer to that communication is made up of 7% the word choices, 38% the tonality, and 55% physiology. He said, but then all those people in the NLP world just talk about the 7% the entire time. And he must have talked about the 93% of the other than conscious communication. Right. And one of the things he asked us to do in one of the seminars I took is to observe people's breathing and speak only on their exhale, which of course is, Halimah, you mentioned before, slowing down your rate of speech. That's a really good way to slow down your rate of speech, is to only speak on their exhale, which of course is also creating a deep, sympathetic vibration. You're in the same rhythm neurologically as that person, because as they're exhaling, you're speaking. And as they inhale, your speaking is, of course, an exhale. As they inhale, you probably inhale too. So you're both breathing at the same rate, which creates a really strong rapport.
No question. And basically, you've described the way Frank Sinatra sang.
I did?
Yeah.
Inhale and exhale? That's amazing.
Well, Brenda Lee, who was, a singer back in the 60s and country singer on top of it, she was talking about that. She learned from Frank Sinatra that he breathes in through his nose and exhales through his mouth when he sings.
Oh.
In other words, he doesn't take a breath when he sings through his mouth. He doesn't go, he sucks in through his nose and then out his mouth. So he sings on the exhale. Well, everybody sings on the exhale, I think. But.
I think so, yeah. Wow.
I'm gonna pause just for a minute. I've got to take my beagle outside because I don't know if you can hear her pacing back and forth. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. Come on.
Yes, we have heard the beagle. I probably should have thought of this before, but I just muted her mic, but that's okay. I wonder if I can unmute her mic. I've never tried this. Oh, I can.
There you go. See that?
Unlike Zoom, I can both mute and unmute my participants.
See that? Oh, that's nice. Well, when you did a talk show, when I did a talk show, we had a mute button, which was great. Yeah. If you had an idiot on the other end, you could. That was one of my best ad libs ever when I did a talk show. I had this guy, honest to God, it was so good. He was talking about some inane stuff, and you couldn't get through to him. He was a cement block, right? I mean, I tried everything I knew to get through, and I couldn't. And this guy was talking about stuff that just was off the wall. And I finally interrupted him, and I said, let me ask you a question. I don't remember the topic material we were talking about. I said, but let me ask you a question. I said, do you believe in reincarnation? He goes, no, I don't believe in that crap. I said, when I woke up this morning, I said, neither did I. And he said, oh? I said, but I'm starting to believe in it now. And he goes, how come? I said, because nobody could get as stupid as you in one lifetime.
So he said, oh, yeah, I was born this way, mister.
Yeah. That's my Dave, but that's how Dave probably would have handled it.
Hey, John Morgan, since Halimah's not here right now, what's that stuff on your background? What's that grasshopper and interruption stuff?
Oh, that interruption is a book that I wrote back in 2018. Interruption: The Magic Key to Lasting Change. And
Where'd you go?
Yeah, where did I go? And the other one is another book I wrote. It's called Wisdom of the Grasshopper. It's mini meditations, and they're both available. One of them is for free. The interruption book is again on my YouTube channel or on my podcasting channel.
There you go.
You can either listen. But I guess a lot of people on your podcast just listen. They don't have the ability to see all the video that we've done together.
They have the ability to, but they may not
know how.
Exercise that ability. It's on YouTube. All these videos are on.
Yeah, it's on my YouTube, and I think I sent you the links and stuff that you can let folks know.
Cool. Yeah. So people who watch it can see the covers, and they can. If people who are listening want to see it, they can just go over to the YouTube channel and see it there as well, even if they don't want to, watch it again. People, I think very appropriately, people would like to exercise or whatever while they're listening to this, and that's a wonderful
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I've seen a number of yours, and you do a great job. You got some terrific people on.
I know, and then there's you guys,
and then there's us. I can't believe it was 35 years ago that we met, though. It seems like yesterday.
Stop saying that. It was just yesterday.
Yeah, well, you've got the, Dorian Gray thing going on there. I mean,
look exactly.
You and Dick Clark, I mean, look good for
Yes, I'll take your word. So did you do more than one fun shop, John?
No, I did one fun shop. I did, and then I went out, as I said, and I visited with Dave, with my business partner. And then I came to your event, but I was only there to say hello. I didn't get to see any of the interactions. But
because I introduced you to as repeat offenders, but I guess you were just deeply affected by your.
Oh, it was just. I mean, it was amazing to me. I mean, and the thing about it is, it's like when I talk to Hallie, and we'll talk about you behind your back. We'll say how knowledgeable you are in all different aspects, whether it's the NLP, the Ericksonian, the other than conscious communication, the havening, and everything else that you do. I don't have I took an NLP course, but, I wasn't a master practitioner or anything like that. Basically, I took what I could use from Tony Robbins, my NLP training. If, when Grinder came in and this guy from England, I can't remember his name, came in, they did these things. You remember I would do the anchoring thing at the workshops with people up in the front of the room. I learned that. And from Dave, little things that I could use. I mean, I don't know the whole, what's the word, panoply. I don't know that like you guys do. I mean, I listen to Harlan, I go into a trance. He's got so many facts and figures and this and that, which I don't know about. I just took what it is that I thought I could use and, I put it to use. So I guess my bag of tricks isn't as deep as yours and others, but, the ones that I do use, pretty effective.
Yeah, you've used them very effectively over the years and made a massive change for a lot of people. The John Morgan Seminar, how many people would you say you hypnotized over the years just in the John Morgan seminars?
Hundreds of a million.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty big impact. A lot of people got a lot of benefit from your expertise in how to lose weight and how to stop smoking forever. Good stuff. And with Halimah's help as well, because you organized much of those seminars. You did a lot.
She was the lifeblood, behind it. I mean, believe me, without her setting them up, there was none to do.
I earnestly believe you. I very much believe you. Absolutely.
I have Doug to thank for that as well. Because
I know. I introduced you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we worked together for 15 years, and it's funny that put a pin in this. How I met Hallie was through you.
Yeah.
And I said, Doug, I need somebody to market my seminars, to get in touch with the radio stations. He said, I'm not sure if I know anybody. A couple of people come to mind. And he gave me two names. I can't remember the name of the first woman that you gave me. I spoke to her, And she was very official and very knowledgeable and this and that and the other thing. But it wasn't what I was looking for. I could hear it. I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
I got on with Hallie. She hadn't sold, a pencil in her life. She didn't know anything about sales or, how to approach radio. She knew nothing about radio, this and that. And all I heard on this phone call, I talked to her for over an hour, was this cheerful person. And I said, that's exactly what I need. I said, because she's going to talk to mostly men who are general managers of radio stations. I said, a guy will probably want to fight with them. I said, she's a woman and she's got this natural charm and she sounds so damn cheerful. And she says, well, I don't think I can do this. And so we hung up and I called her back, or she called me back, I can't remember, and said, I think I want to try this. I said, okay. Best hire ever.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that the reason I did it is because I was thinking about all the different dominoes that I was setting up, and I knew that eventually we would get back to this moment right here.
This moment with Dave,
man.
yeah.
Isn't he the best, Halimah? Isn't Doug the best? God.
He is our Doug.
I know.
Such a sweetheart.
So, John, I'm going to send you these recordings so you can clean up the audio, maybe. You got a job ahead of you.
Yeah. Well, how do you send big recordings like that?
We'll talk about that after the show. But let's just say goodbye for now.
Okay. Bye now. Bye now.
And thank you all for coming. And if you want to learn more, we'll tell you how you can get hold of John and Halimah's stuff on both YouTube and wherever else it might be lurking. But you'll find it down there in the program notes. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
This has been the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure seeing you again. Hope to see you again real soon. Come back next week when we have another gripping and exciting episode of the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. And if you want to, you can find out more about us, each and every one of us, at essentialcoachingskills.com. Thanks.